This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Huion has released a new 13-inch 2.5K display. It's a really good price, so today we're gonna see if it's worth it. Hello, my name is Brad. I review tech for creative professionals, and today we're taking a look at this. This is the Huion Kamvas 13 Pro. Or is it the Pro 13? They seem to always be switching those two things around. This is a pen display. What that means is this is an external monitor, a really small monitor, that plugs into your laptop or desktop computer, Mac or PC, and becomes a second screen that you can draw on. So even though it does kind of look a little bit like a standalone computer, it's not. It's just this screen. Now this is what I would consider a mid-tier pen display. It's not too expensive, but it's not the cheapest one you can get either. So there's a couple extra features here, and the main feature that I think puts it a step above last year's version, which is the non-Pro 13, is that 2.5K screen. The last one just had a full HD screen, that's 1080p, and that was good enough because when you get a screen that's full HD on a 13-inch tablet, it actually looks pretty good. You can't see the pixels, like they don't get too blurry like it does like on their larger drawing displays. However, I will say this, adding all those extra pixels does make this look crisper. It does make it look really good. Over the last few years, people have asked in the comments, hey, what's the benefit of getting, say, a Pro Huion as opposed to the standard one? Because the Pros tend to cost between $50 and $100 more. And for the most part, I've thought, not a whole lot. The Pros tended to have better color on the monitors and things like that. But really, when you actually got down to like the brass tacks of the drawing experience, it was pretty much the same. And I think by adding this 2.5K display, that's a big enough upgrade there to say, if you could swing it, go for the 13-inch Pro over the standard. So let's take a look at what you can expect when you open this box. First up, on the top, you have the tablet itself. Comes with a nice protective coating on it so it doesn't get scratched in shipment. It also has a shiny side and a matte finish over the screen itself where you're going to be drawing. Now the display has a 145% sRGB color gamut, 1200 to 1 contrast ratio, 16.7 million colors, a 178 degree viewing angle. The resolution of the screen is 2560 pixels by 1600 pixels. That's a little bigger than 2.5K. It's about 200 pixels tall. There is a matte screen protector on this. It feels great to draw on. This is a heavier matte than some of their other products. It's a little bit more grainy looking as well. Maybe it's a little bit more noticeable because the pixels are a little denser, so you see the grain a little bit more. It doesn't bother me, but I know it will bother some people. It's also a laminated screen. Now this is something that's been pretty common on everything Huion's done in the last 2 or 3 years, but that's worth noting too. Some of the older ones or some of the more inexpensive Wacom devices out there don't have that laminated screen, and that is a really nice upgrade. You also have the shortcut keys along the side. Those are nice and clicky. They don't feel cheap. They even have these little symbols on them so you can feel while your hand is resting on it where your thumb is so you know which one you're clicking. That's a nice touch. That's something Huion's been doing on a lot of their products lately. Also in the box, you're going to find the stand, and this isn't really a special stand. You can prop it up at a couple different angles. It gets the job done. It's good enough. Let's take a look at the pen. This is the cleanest this pen will ever be. I really like the feel of the pen in your hand. I did mention the cleanliness of it. It does attract dust on the rubber portion, and you just kind of get used to it. And actually, I don't know why. I mean, it's a comfortable rubber. That's probably why they use it. But every single drawing pen has the same exact rubber, and it does the same exact thing. Now, the pen has over 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. This is nothing new. This is something Huion's been doing for years. But they're calling this their new 3.0 Pentek. They say this provides more stability on lower ends of the pressure scale. Now, I'm going to go through the drawing test and talk more about this later. But if I'm being completely honest, I didn't really notice too much of a difference from their old pens. That's not a dig against this pen. What that means is I thought the old pens were really good, and I thought the levels of pressure or the initial activation rate on this pen was still really good. This didn't seem like amazingly better. I'm sure they improved it. It's just one of those things where when the quality gets to a certain point, you don't notice the incremental upgrades quite as much. Also in the box is a pen holder donut-y thing. Huion has always included extra nibs when you open this thing up, but this time they're including some felt tip nibs in there too. These give your stylus a slightly different feel, especially against that matte finish screen. I really like this inclusion, mainly because I very rarely actually burn through those nibs. Some people do because they're like hard drawers, and the harder you push, the more you're going to burn through it. I don't really burn through stylus tips that quickly, and so for me, having those extra nibs to give you a different feel This is a nice change of pace. You have all of your power cords. There's two ways to connect this to your computer. The first one is the included USB-C cable. If you have a USB-C port on your computer, you just plug it in, one cord, you're good to go. You're also gonna need a second power cord, and that's another USB-C cable that will just plug into your wall. One thing to note here is the power adapter itself, much like the newer iPhones, is not included. I just grabbed an old one that I had standing around from an old phone and was able to plug it in. It worked flawlessly, and that's probably what Huion is thinking. Why give them the power adapter if you already have a whole bunch laying around? But if you don't have an extra power adapter, that might be something that's worth picking up. The second way to connect this is to use the all-in-one combo cable thing. Now, the big hulking end, that plugs into the two ports along the side. On the other end, you have an HDMI cable, and you also have a standard USB Type A cable. Actually, you have two standard USB Type A cables. The red one is your power one that plugs into the extension cord, which again would plug into an adapter that you have. Now, one thing to note is when you're looking at this red extension cable isn't that long, and neither is the original USB cord that they're giving you for power. I found that it's just long enough to basically go off the back of my desk and down to the floor, and maybe over a foot or two. So if your power supply isn't really close to where you're working, you probably want to get like an extension cord or something you're going to have to run underneath your desk in order to accommodate that. Okay, before we get to the drawing test, I do want to shout out to today's sponsor, Squarespace.
From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated, members-only content. Manage your members, send email communications, and leverage audience insights, all in one easy-to-use platform. Squarespace has the tools you need to get your business off the ground, including e-commerce templates, inventory management, a simple checkout process, and secure payments. Whatever you sell, Squarespace has the merchandising features that you need to make your products look their best online. Squarespace takes all the guesswork out of search engine optimization for your website, which means you'll get found and searched by more people more often. Check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/BradColbo to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain.
All right, in this section, I want to talk about this pen and how well it performs and what you can expect from it. And overall, my thoughts and feelings are this thing is really good. Now, this is something I've come to expect from Huion over the last several iterations of their products. So first things first, I like to test with just a standard, hard, round, pressure-sized brush, because what that's going to let me do is do really light lines. It's going to let me apply pressure and do heavier lines, medium lines, and then back to my light lines. So it gives me a feel for where that pressure curve is, if it blows out anywhere along the line, and generally this feels really good. The one thing that did impress me as I was drawing with this were two things. First thing is the beginnings and ends of lines. Whenever I draw a line, I just get a beautiful, beautiful taper. Now, oftentimes when you draw really fast lines with one of these things, the taper gets a little wonky. But as I speed up my lines and I shake my table, sorry about that, what you see are just beautiful tapers at the ends, really nice tapers at the beginning. That's the sort of thing that I love to see, because oftentimes you will see kind of this shoestring effect where the taper just won't look organic. These look really good. On a lot of tablets, if the taper doesn't look organic, you just kind of slow down the pen, and it seems to fix that. But here, that doesn't seem to be a problem. Even with the fast strokes, that taper's looking really good. The other thing that I like to take a look at is the pressure. Now, the initial activation rate on this is pretty good. If I just press super lightly, I get a nice light line. If I just kind of do my normal pressure, it's holding pressure around curves. It's not blowing out anywhere. Let me apply more pressure as I go. Yeah, this just seems to be like a really smooth pressure curve. Obviously on the really light lines, it kind of fades a little bit because I'm not applying much pressure at all when I'm getting some of these lines. That's pretty normal. I don't draw that lightly. Most people do not draw that lightly. That's something that Huion has tried to improve with this iteration of the pen. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't really notice it. I didn't think it was bad before. I think it's just fine now. I guess if you're a light drawer, you might notice it, but this is something I was looking for and didn't really see. The other thing I like to look for are slow lines, because this is going to tell me, how much wave there is to the line. And as I draw slowly, I get really clean lines. I'll draw a little lighter, speed it up a little bit. I sometimes break out a ruler with these tests because what I'm looking for is mechanical wobble with the lines as I'm drawing. And I could tell there's a tiny bit. I could see it like here along this line a little bit. I can see like little dips and waves, but nothing bad at all. I mean, the smoothing's off entirely, and I find these lines to be very, very good.
Pros and cons, the major pro here is the price, the amount of quality you're getting for the price. Like I said, this isn't the most inexpensive pen display that Huion makes. You can get the non-pro version. It's really cheap. However, I think the benefits that you're getting by doing this upgrade this year are really good. That 2.5K screen, that's another pro. In fact, that is the major pro here. I think it works well. The other pro is definitely that pen. In fact, up to this point, I haven't really said anything negative about this tablet because if I'm being honest, there aren't a whole lot of drawbacks. I mean, it's not the highest end tablet. It's not the highest end screen. However, I think it's really good for the price and what it is. That's probably a good segue to the cons. What are other cons? There's got to be something right. The power cord, I wish it was longer.
There is a matte screen protector on this, and one thing I will note here is that for some folks, that screen finish is going to be too grainy.
I guess you could say, is this pen as good as what you find on a Wacom tablet? And not quite, but I feel like it's almost there. It's so close. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.